actually meeting at a very interesting time now. And you see the headlines in our industry. And unfortunately, these were all too predictable. So as I keep reiterating, the bigger the bubble, then the bigger the bust that follows, necessarily. And this has happened already. I mean, we saw this in the dot-com bust. We lived through it. Our company lived through it then. And in fact, we were extremely badly affected by that. I'll talk about that a little bit later. And then the global financial crisis, which also affected us, but not as much as the dot-com telecom bust in 2001. And what we experienced in the last year and a half, 2 years, the post-pandemic bubble, and which is a continuation of the previous bubble, the pandemic disrupted it a little bit, is biggest ever in history of technology, probably history of the world. All asset classes, from real estate to technology to NFTs to SPACs to crypto, you name it, everything doubled, they called it. And unfortunately, you cannot defy gravity forever, and that's what is happening. And so that's the moment we are meeting, and first of all, I want to welcome you all to the first of these events. We are restarting post-pandemic, and I'm actually happy to be in these events. I always liked it. The very first of Zoholics happened exactly 10 years ago in San Francisco. And we had about 100 people show up. And that was a lot. We thought 100 people showed up. That was a lot. And that was like the entire customer base. This is only one event for all of US, 100 people showed up. And now every city we conduct, 400, 500 people show up. There are about 500 people expected in Delhi today and tomorrow. And we had that crowd in Bengaluru, in Mumbai last week. And next week we are in Mexico, and the week after in Colombia. And a month before we had it in Germany, we had it in London, all packed houses, and we had it in Canada. So we are doing this worldwide now. What we are finding is there is a real hunger for some new approach to technology. Not just new technology, new approach to technology, new way of doing business. There is a hunger worldwide, we are seeing it. I had a virtual event in Indonesia about a month ago, 1,000 people showed up. I mean, I've never had a virtual event where 1,000 people show up. And this happened in Indonesia. So like this, I think we are seeing a groundswell of interest in this, which I'm happy about. But at the same time, I want to reiterate this whole lesson we have to unfortunately relearn again. We can only build these things in the long haul. There's no such thing, particularly in our industry, as overnight success. Unfortunately, we often chase the delusion, and that chasing it itself leads to bad results. That's what I'm going to talk about the first part of the presentation. Of course, you see the last 3 years, the pandemic, and then of course the big bubble, money printing, then inflation necessarily followed worldwide. Interestingly, inflation rate in India has been subdued compared to the world, compared to the US, Europe, in Germany, UK, extremely high inflation levels. In fact, because we do business everywhere, we saw a lot of prices in the US jump 20-30% on us in the last year. And we had to raise prices because of that, because the price levels were extremely high. Then of course the war occurred. Even before the war, things started to slow down, and then the war kind of made that inevitable. And we also saw that great resignation, where companies right and left were losing people all around, impossible to retain talent and technology. All of this happened, we witnessed it. So it has felt like a very long decade already, like more than a decade's worth of stuff packed into 3 years. They will remember those 3 years, right? And this is how our memories are formed like that. Events. Entire stretch of time our memory might be empty, because not much of significance happened, but it's been a decade. And this actually was, when we saw that in the beginning, when we started this 2020, that pandemic struck, I actually thought that the great bubble was going to come to an end then. In fact, that was my forecast in March of 2020, because we had already gone on for many years of this bubble. What I did predict was that it was going to get even crazier, even bigger. In fact, if the bubble had ended in 2020, it would still have been a big bubble, but maybe the bust would have been more like the dot-com bust, may not have been as severe, but then it got much worse. But what I actually said, the first thing I did was to declare to our employees, we'll avoid layoffs at any cost. In March, April of 2020, when our business was tanking, it did look like this was going to be the end. I think many of us would remember these times. And there was no predicting when it will end, right? This was the uncertainty was punishing. And you saw stock markets were down, all of that. And so this is the first reassurance I made, because I knew that our employees needed that assurance, that this is important. That the most important priority at that point is to make sure that we tell people you're safe, we will avoid it. How could we make that promise? We had always run prudently. We always keep several months of cushion, and we have this is why we actually built it slowly, hired slowly over time, and built a portfolio of products to afford some diversification in our revenue streams, diversification across geographic markets. In fact, today, even our US revenue, US is the biggest market for us, it's only about 38-40% of revenue. Most software technology companies would have 60% in the US, but we are only 40%. This was a diversification we started about 10-12 years ago, said we have to have a much more global diversification, we cannot just depend on one country. And that's when we started investing in India heavily. And I'm happy to report that India is now number 3 in our revenue, and the fastest growing market today, according to Ford. And at the present pace we are growing in India, it should be number 2 in about 3 years, overtaking the EU as number 2, and it should be number 1 in maybe 10 or 12 years. That's my current projection for our pace of growth in India. And this is also very predictable from another perspective. India is where I think a lot of technology is going to happen. And I'll talk about this. I mean, I'm an optimist, but first we have to get through this whole downturn. The second thing that I said, we also announced this emergency subscription assistance program for our customers. Globally we announced it. And about 15,000-20,000 customers took advantage of it. And we suspended the payments. We said, you don't have to pay us, and we'll stand the impact for a period. And then actually what surprisingly happened is, about within 2-3 months, they started coming back. People would send us mail saying, turn back my subscription, I'm okay now, I'm recovering. It was really good to see. In fact, these were people who had requested it initially to waive the subscription, and then they quickly, about 2 months later, they would call back and say, please turn it back on. And we actually kept our customers. And why I'm mentioning these two, employees and customers, this is how we think in our company. First, we have to take care of our employees so that our employees can take care of customers. And these two are the pillars on which the whole business has been built. And this is what happened in 2021, the boom times. All those customers we served during 2020, we actually had cut back our marketing substantially in 2020. One of the cost savings measures we adopted was to cut back on marketing spending, including our Google spending, all of that. And that we didn't fully reinstate it in 2021 because I was still cautious. I wasn't very sure that, immediately to just turn back marketing spending on. And then markets, of course, boomed. We actually were not marketing. In fact, most of you would know that Zoho is one of the companies that doesn't market itself that much. It was a deliberate policy. And yet we actually had one of our banner years in 2021, which is why we were able to cross that $1 billion milestone. And that happened because of word of mouth effects. Those 15,000-20,000 customers probably brought in each maybe 2 or 3 more customers to us. They told their friends, they told the other businesses in the region, and our popularity actually zoomed worldwide after that. We actually have now more customers we sign up today than even before the pandemic, which is an interesting one. And we still continue that. Actually, our revenues have slowed substantially this year, but our customer count is increasing at a rapid clip. What it means is that we are attracting more customers who may not have even heard about us before. They are smaller customers in some cases, or many customers are now trialing us more because they want to see what is there in Zoho that I can use. So all this means that our revenue per customer, new customer, is dropping, but the number of customers is increasing, which I really like the trend, because our growth strategy has always been gain customers and then earn their trust, and then they slowly expand their business with us. So what lies ahead, 2023 and beyond? This is the biggest question facing all of us, all our businesses, and Zoho, everybody in the industry. But this is what I'm going to tell you. We can make some intelligent guesses, but in true sense we cannot know. But what we can do is, what are our values that will determine our actions? What do we believe? What do we stand for? What are our internal convictions? Do we have a philosophy? That will determine how we act, and that's the only thing in our control, right? Whatever the world happens, the war may end, it may not end. And do we know what the oil prices will be 3 months down the road, 6 months down the road? Just a few days ago, there was a headline news in the Wall Street Journal, said Saudi Arabia has requested help from the US because they got intelligence that Iran was going to attack them. Iran was going to attack oil installations in Saudi Arabia. This was the news in Wall Street Journal. I'm just simply quoting the headline. And such events are completely unforecastable because of what it would do to oil prices, what it would do to our own petroleum, diesel, all that. And this is more important than we realize even for technology. Because I'll tell you, I live in a village, our farming today, pretty much no farming can happen without diesel. Tractors, harvesters, and no food can be transported without diesel, lorries. And none of us can cook without gas. You see the dependence? So it's diesel and gas. We basically farm using diesel and we cook using gas, LPG. And if there is any interruption, any prolonged interruption or prices skyrocket, it has serious economic consequences for all of us. So these are things we cannot predict. The only thing we can predict is what we can do. What if those such things, adverse events happen, what philosophy, what convictions will drive our action. And this is where it's important to have this core idea, because a shared sense of purpose and destiny is how you navigate stormy seas. And you really need that, the whole team to share a sense of purpose, and there has to be an internal culture. And these kinds of things cannot be built after a storm hits. You cannot say, you cannot go buy a team culture. And you cannot impart a destiny by hiring consultants. You cannot, external consultants cannot say, this is your mission, this is your destiny. We have to have an internal reflection within a company, within an org, within a team to decide all this. And all of these have to be done before a crisis strikes. And these are the real capital, that culture is the real capital that helps us withstand adversity. You can think of it as a form of insurance in a way. When we think of insurance, capital, all that in financial terms, but really there's a real culture of a team. The management is all some kind of policies, procedures, all that. But these are much, much more important, in my opinion. And so this is where I always say that you have to have a holistic philosophy that governs all your actions. And I'll outline some of this, why I use the word holistic. Holistic the term I'm using here is in the sense of non-dualistic. Not separating, seeing things separately. And a good example of that dualism is the separation between a strategy, a corporate strategy, and a corporate culture. So corporate strategy is to be determined by important people. Corporate culture, maybe somebody in junior in HR will organize cultural events, right? That's often how we think. But for you to be successful long haul, long term, a corporate strategy and a corporate culture has to be aligned together. And culture, the strategy must be rooted in culture. It's extremely important. And culture is not something that's quantifiable. We can enumerate our strategy in a presentation, but you cannot present a culture. It's impossible. Culture must be experienced, felt, and observed, and cannot be presented. So, but yet strategy must be rooted in the culture. The dualism, the separation between strategy versus culture, that cannot stand if in a long-term organization. Then we also think there's a dualism, even a contradiction between thinking local and thinking global, transnational. And we actually often think that to be global, we have to detach ourselves from all local influences. We are global, right? And we have always thought different. Localism is transnational, and this is why we call this rooted and connected. So you have roots, and if you have roots, strong roots, can you truly be global? To truly be a global company, you have to belong somewhere. You have to have roots somewhere. You have to have a sense of belonging. So that's why we call it rooted and connected. The connectedness won't give you any benefit if you are not rooted somewhere. So that's why we call our philosophy of that, of our way we operate globally, as transnational localism. And this same thing occurs in terms of product versus platform dualism. You have products, discrete products you use, and then there are tech platforms you think of. And this dualism also has to be, and this is known, where products that work together to be a platform. So you have to integrate them holistically. And then this is an important one. To truly deliver the benefits, for example, technology benefits. Today, why do we love our phone so much? Why do we spend all the time? Our phone has replaced payment systems. That's our credit card now, or our charge. Most of us now, I don't carry much cash anymore. 50 rupees, 60 rupees, everything is now UPI payments, right? Everywhere. You go to remotest villages, UPI now. In fact, a few days ago, I actually asked in a temple, absent-mindedly, where's the QR code for the offering plate? Seriously. I actually told the Pandit there that, it's better to keep a QR code here. There's no cash, right? I don't have any cash on me, and I want to give him something. So, but, I think our gods will approve, because this is technology. Money is technology, this QR code is another technology, so. But why I'm saying it is all of these benefits, they're real benefits. UPI is a real benefit. All of us should be very proud of, because you don't have this payment system this easy, this friction-free, this cheap from a merchant perspective, all of that anywhere in the world. India is the only country, in fact, the best payment system in the world today, I'll say. And all of these technology also can only work. That integration, the data has to flow freely from your bank to your payment app to all of these. But you can only be confident about all those integrations if there is a shield of privacy around it. Meaning that the data will only be used to serve you and not for some other nefarious purpose. So privacy has to be the foundation. The privacy shield has to be the foundation of integration. The same thing true in Zoho. All the apps work together better only when the data flows freely across them. But you don't have a privacy shield around it, then you cannot trust that integration. And that is why we actually have adopted for a long-standing our principle, more than 15 years, that we will not ever use an advertising business model. Our entire business model is very simple. It is whatever it is, the customers, you pay us. That's all the money we have. We have no other back-end dealing. Your data is yours. We are not a data broker. delivering it to somebody else, all of it. And so this is our privacy shield for us is born of the need. We saw this 15 years ago, that contextually integrating apps is the way to deliver maximum benefits, maximum productivity. So data has to move freely across the apps. But for that to happen, we have to have that privacy shield around it. And this, again, this is actually something, it's even appears like a contradiction. How can you be both very humble and have inner confidence? I'm going to tell you, true confidence can only come out of humility, and this is only this is the deepest message of our sages, our saints, throughout our history, our gurus. What they have taught us is this, the foundation of humility, and that gives that inner confidence. And so, a confidence that is not born of humility is false. It's merely ego. And this is, pragmatically, there is another reason. When we face a very uncertain world, and the world is getting even more uncertain now, and our level of knowledge about what can happen is very limited in anything. We are necessarily limited. We cannot know everything. Nobody can. And yet we are asked to make decisions all the time. So humility gives us the notion that I know these and I don't know these. What I don't know, we admit that I don't know. In fact, in most meetings, when somebody comes up and says something or asks me something, if I don't know, I say I don't know. Explain it to me, I don't know. And this is something that we have to practice, saying I don't know when we don't know. And so, this is the key message for me, that we can only be sure of what we know, if we also know what we don't know. And if we think we know it all, in a way, then we actually don't know anything. And this is particularly relevant because the very ground, the intellectual ground on which we are standing is shifting. And settled truths are now changing. What we consider settled truths that we long taken for granted, this is true in many, many fields, whether it is economics, industry, and geopolitics. And this, I believe, the coming decade will challenge it. In fact, I'll give you my own perspective on this. I look at events like the Soviet collapse, which happened in my final year when I was in IIT, 89, 90. That's when the headlines were all like about Soviet Union collapse. And then the Tiananmen Square events happened in May of 89. I remember all those. I used to be a very avid, was following this. I was actually hoping the Soviet communism would collapse. Because by the time I was in IIT, I had become a staunch anti-communist. I could see the destruction it was doing around the world and how people are trying to flee these countries. So the Soviet collapse was a very, very big event. And yet nobody saw that coming. If you were reading any of the major economists, any of that, in even 1987, 88, they did not predict the Soviet collapse. In fact, the CIA later admitted, not even the CIA predicted a Soviet collapse. So nobody saw that coming. And of course, there was a big event happened in our nation's history, 1947, which is a break with the past. Why I am quoting these events is that similar magnitude events we can expect now in the whole geopolitical arena. The whole game is changing. What the assumptions we had about globalization, all of that are changing now. For example, we know the word resilience. And a lot of us now know about supply chains. Where are our goods coming from? And can we can we depend on that supply chain? All of those issues now are much more relevant than ever before. And which is why the Atmanirbhar Bharat, that message is so resonating, because we all know at a deep level that we have to make all the things that we depend on here, and we have to trade on equal terms. All of these realization is come now. In other words, we have to trade on a level playing field where we don't run large deficits, particularly with countries that may not have our best interests at heart. All these are important now. This, I think, the realization is sunk in across our political, business, economic, the entire landscape. It will take several years to fix those, but at least the realization is sunk in. And this is important for us. This is why when we are facing this is as they say, an inflection point, that frequently used word, but where there's distinctly a pre-1947, post-1947, a pre-Soviet collapse, post-Soviet collapse. And this similar changes, maybe a pre-globalization or pre-whatever, and then post-globalization era. That's what we are coming to, and we have to be ready for this. And please think through all this, follow people on this, and understand this, because it's going to challenge a lot of assumptions we hold dear today. And it's not just in economics, it's not just in business, it's not just in politics, cultural assumptions, all of this. And this is the most important of all, because this is probably the most deeply dharmic or Indic way of thinking. That prosperity has to be rooted in contentment. And this notion in economics today, the entire economic science is the science of more and more and more and more. We'll consume more and more energy, more material goods, bigger and bigger houses, whatnot, more vehicles, more diesel, more pollution. That's what economics is, because more GDP. All of that is more GDP. And conventional economists will tell you GDP is consumption. Well, we will consume our planet at this rate. It's obvious. Climate change is now, in fact, there was a UN report just 2 days ago. It said that the Earth is faced with catastrophic warming now, because we are not acting. And I'll tell you the reason we are not acting is our philosophy of business, our philosophy of economics, all that is flawed. The same economists who actually think about global warming also will say we have to increase GDP. And increase GDP means more consumption, more stuff in our houses, more stuff that we transport, all of that. So the word contentment, this is very, very critical now. Because we are Mother Earth. And those two words, I use humility and I use contentment. If we have to summarize Indian philosophy, Indian spirituality, I'd say those two words, just humility and contentment. Those are the two that summarize. All the rest follows. Gratitude, all of that follows. We have humility, we have contentment, all the rest of the virtues follow. And we have to be grateful that we have a Mother Earth, we have a planet, and we have to act with humility to protect it, because we are very much part of it. And then the way that we view employee training, all of that is learning by doing, because we think the dualism, the separation between learning and doing has to end. In this context, actually, I have always been critical of colleges. I want to mention one college I visited about 5-6 months ago. I was really blown away by what they are doing. This is an engineering college in a small town near Coimbatore called Satyamangalam. It's a rural college. And the way it came to my notice, we used to go there, maybe hire 4 or 5 students a year. Just small. When we hire 1,000 people, you take 4 people from a college, nothing of particular note. Then last year we took maybe 200 people. That came to my attention. And our HR, multiple people mentioned it. And I asked, so what happened? What changed here? And then one of my friends also was connected with the college. He told me, you should come visit this college. Go see for yourself. So I actually went there. I went to Coimbatore and I visited in Satyamangalam this college. Everything from the very first semester, engineering education is doing projects. Project after project after project. Classrooms are optional. You only do projects, and you do welding things, you are wiring things, and you are fixing things, and you are breaking apart things, all of that. And then the students also, the college has entered them into a variety of competitions. Robot competition, MIT, building submarines, building electric vehicles, building automation systems, all that. So for example, they are building robots that shoot baskets, and then go collect the ball and shoot again. That's a test. And these students enroll in these, and from the very first semester, the second semester, they became interns on these projects. By the time they reach 4th year, they lead these projects. And classrooms are optional. They watch classes like a probability or or this thing or that thing, thermodynamics or whatever classes, like 1 hour or 2 hours in the evening on video, and then take a quiz, that's it, that's their classroom instruction, that's done. The rest of the time they're in the workshops. And these students are spending weekends, all that there. I mean, there's no other motivation, they just build all this stuff. This is true engineering education. I mention this because we need to replicate this across our entire nation. If we do this, we'll become the most developed country on the planet very fast, because we have so much brain power. These students are building very impressive stuff, and they are learning by doing. And what is interesting is this whole transformation started only 3-4 years ago, which is why a few years ago we were only hiring 4 or 5 kids. Then what happened in 3-4 years ago? A retired bureaucrat, an IAS officer from Tamil Nadu Education Department, he was asked to become a trustee in the college. It's just somebody, through common friends he was asked to. He was a respected man, and he became, and he transformed education, the same principal, the same faculty, everyone, but he ended up transforming it. I asked him, how did he get all these ideas? He said, I knew you only can learn anything by doing it. We cannot learn by sitting in the classroom, particularly not engineering. And this is exactly what we do in our Zoho schools of learning. So it's really all the skill is imparted by learning by doing. The very first lesson, open a computer, how to operate a computer, how to type commands on Linux, and how to build a website. That's how we start. We don't inflict any theory. Along the way, they might have a 1 hour thing on, here is how an algorithm works kind of thing. But you are issuing SQL queries, you are building websites, you are writing code. Within 2-3 months, you see the remarkable transformation in our very often, majority of our students in Zoho schools of learning have not used a computer before. They come from backgrounds where they have not had access to computers. And yet, within 3 months, actually they can code websites. Within 6 months, I see them building games. Everybody gets into games, all that. So it's amazing transformation, all this learning by doing. This whole college follows this. And now this college is outperforming IITs in terms of those competitions. Their students win competitions against IIT students now. And this is a very humble engineering college with mostly rural students. And this is actually a program we launched in 2022, about 6 months ago. It's a boot camp for women who have left the workforce for whatever reason, most because of they became mothers. And it's a 3-month program to bring them back and into the workforce. So we give them again learn by doing. They do projects, so they refresh their skills and then rejoin. And it's called Marubadi in Tamil, and Marubadi means again in Tamil. So, and that's the team, and most of them are now in the workforce back. So this again is to us, we cannot separate business and philanthropy. You cannot separate the doing good from making money. And this we have lived through all our life, that you have to do good while making money. In other words, you cannot separate, you cannot run a merciless business on the day, and then nighttime you say, I do charity, or weekends I do charity. It's not possible. Unfortunately, that again is very common in our industry. People like Bill Gates epitomized it. Microsoft is known as a ruthless competitor, and he got convicted as a monopolist, but then he will do charity on the weekends, and that will earn a good name. That's how they think, and we cannot do that thinking here. We have to do holistic thinking. And these are the sort of the purpose-driven action for me. Our actions have to be animated by purposes felt within. And these are, to us, some of the actions we perform. If you look at all the things, and strong investment in R&D. I'll highlight a few of the R&D projects which have a significant benefit to our customers. We, for example, in Zoho, we don't use AWS or Azure, any of that. We have invested in our own cloud framework that saves us maybe about 60-70% compared to the public clouds. At least 50%, maybe as much as 70%. The public clouds are much more expensive. So all the services you consume are all hosted in our own data centers. In India, our primary data center is in Mumbai. Our secondary one, the backup center, is in Chennai. 2 coasts, by coastal. So that's why we have set up our data centers. And the entire thing, the stack above the hardware layer, the hardware is the only thing we don't make. And maybe in some future years, we'll figure out how to make them too. And this is another important one. Very fast databases now running on GPU. Traditionally, database software ran only on CPUs. The GPU, the graphical processing unit, is how you render your UI. And GPUs have a much faster architecture than CPUs. GPUs work much faster, but the software to run on it, you have to do a lot of custom work. That's the trade-off. Meaning the GPU can run much faster, but you have to do a lot of intricate R&D work to get your software to run on the GPU. Most people will not bother because it's too much work. But we have actually cracked the problem. Our databases now, we can run on GPU, and we have put it in production in a few of our data centers, including in our Mumbai, but it will spread across all our software soon. This will flow across all of this. The complete security stack. This is actually very important investment we have made to protect your data. All of the spam, fraud detection. Being a global company spread everywhere, we are subject to a lot of these attacks all the time. And we have a security operations center to watch this full time now, all the time. Phishing attacks, all of that. So we have to stop them. That software has become very sophisticated. It's our own homegrown stack. And all of these, we are going to our custom cloud framework, our databases, our security, all of those are used in our products today, but we are also going to productize them separately. And this is an important one where when the pandemic struck, we actually found ourselves a little bit behind in terms of our audio video stack. We were not as good as Zoom. And we decided to launch a huge R&D effort to catch up. And I'm very happy to say that that effort yielded very impressive benefits where today we now have a extremely scalable AV framework where we conduct, just one example of it, every Friday we conduct a town hall for all our employees. All our employees can post questions anonymously too. So this is important because this is why I immediately come to know of problems. Often the problems are the pantry is not well stocked in Tenkasi or something. Those problems also occur, but some really real problems also show up. Now, maybe our cabs are running too full, or our gym is not working. Those kinds of problems will surface, but more important problems, why are we falling behind in this product? Are we slacking off on this in this area? Those kinds of questions also come. So it's a very tough town hall every week for me. About 1.5 hours I have to face the music. But the key thing is it is implemented on our technology, the audio video framework. And it is implemented now across products, and we are also going to launch it as a separate offering that our customers can use it in their products too. So again, benefit of this. And this is another thing I am particularly proud of because it happens right there in Tenkasi with a small engineering team that I'm working with closely. And a machine translation approach using Sanskrit. So when you translate between, say, Hindi and Tamil, or Gujarati and Marathi, or all that, you can use Sanskrit as the intermediate language. The two sides are not Sanskrit, but the intermediate middle form is Sanskrit. And that is working quite well. We are finding out. This has been known about this. This is not a new discovery or something, but nobody seems to have used it well in software. We are using it now, and we are going to again launch products using this technology. And this is an important one. You can go to Ula.com, you can see a browser that we are launching, extremely privacy centric. Ula in Tamil means travels, or travel maybe. Sutrala means travel. So, or what you call it, luxury travel. So this is the touring. Okay, Sutrala means tour. So Ula is a kind of a tour or travel. So browser, it's an appropriate name for it. We got the brand domain name, Ula.com. You can go check Ula.in, all that. And this is all the modes there are. Normally browsers have 2 modes, but we have all these. For me, the most important mode is the developer mode. So the software developers have their own mode now. First time ever in a browser. I'm very proud of that. So And there is the kids mode, and there's of course the incognito mode, all of these. Most critically, the cookies stay separate. So your sessions cannot mix across them. They'll stay totally separate. And we are even doing innovations like attaching a different ID to each of these. So if you use the same website from one mode to another mode, they'll never know even the ID information, that it's the same browser that came in. And we are also going to offer a VPN service where it can be completely anonymized through this. So, because we have the full cloud. In fact, that brings up an interesting topic. This browser will become important as we roll out data centers more and more, because in every place we can offer the VPN endpoints. So that what the endpoint will see is our IP address, not your IP address. You are further protected. So, and all this comes because of a culture that is nurturing talent long term. And we have, in fact, I am happy to say that we mostly have retained talent well, and last year was the worst attrition. Our attrition rate was 8.5%. We consider it very high. And in our industry, 20% was normal, considered normal. Now it's falling. In fact, we think this year it might be 7%, 6.5%. Next year it might be 4 or 5%, which is our normal. Our normal is about 4 or 5%. So that's where we are heading. This is critical. Why I mentioned this is none of these technologies, none of this is possible without our very committed staff. I get to do my job only because we have extremely committed people here. And I want to first call on our staff here to take a bow, because these are the people who put together the event. I often get unfair amount of credit. I'm only the public face, the MOOC, okay? It's our people do all the very extremely hard work here. So I want to acknowledge it, and it has to be clear. And I literally only show up at our events. Every single detail here is managed by our team. Praval, where are you? So Praval has had, and our teams have had many, many sleepless nights to bring you these events. Thank you. And this is also another thing that we are investing in. A lot of our growth has been to enhance both our support experience. We don't outsource our support. All the support is in-house. And we also now are providing these implementation other services so that we can jumpstart a lot of customers. Because we recognize with 55 applications across the suite, all the complexity, a lot of customers need some handholding in the beginning, and we are implementing this. We are also doing this in rural areas with the goal to create rural jobs. And we are going to share this template with our partners, how to set up a good implementation team. These are some things we are figuring out, a rural implementation team, so that we can spread these jobs everywhere. That's something that we want to do. Actually, in my own native village, where I grew up, now there is a 20-30% team that's doing implementation now for some customers. And we are going to, I want to share this template so that we can spread this across our landscape. A lot of these jobs can be created. And this is a final point, that our real differentiation is integration. All the integration of all the suite. We are investing more and more, and this is, of course, the Zoho one is our biggest suite of all. And this operating system of business, we are very committed to the strategy. We are investing more. You will see a lot more innovation around this. You will see more and more in this. And this is the platform. It is becoming a platform with breadth, depth, customizability, all of it now. And you will see, Praval and now our other presenters will give you a lot of details on this. My time is up, it's reminding me. And this is the important one. We will continue to stay private. We crossed the $1 billion milestone, but I still think we are a small company. So it still feels small, by the way. Internally, the company feels small. And we want to stay rooted. This is how we want to be. One of the reasons I don't want to go public is so that, and then bubble peak, these were pressures on us. People will be calling right and left and saying, you could be worth 20 billion, 30 billion, you are an idiot, you're staying private. No, it happened. But I said, no, sorry, we are happy where we are. This is the reason. It allows us the freedom and luxury to be ourselves. And that's more important to us than the stock market valuation, which anyway can't even show you that would have been Maya, illusion valuation. And we are not just in Zoho, we are investing in R&D across the ecosystem. I'll highlight some of the companies we're doing. Titan is medical instruments, and I'm very happy to say that after 9 long years of R&D, we shipped our products to now about 100, 200 of the syringe pumps, the ones that give you infused medicine. Those have been shipped. Many more products are in the lineup. Signal Chip is ready to ship 4G, 5G chipset and equipment. Zentron Labs is shipping product now for this inspection of fruits in the Himachal Pradesh apple and in Nagpur oranges. Those are the two big markets. The capital of apple is Himachal, and the capital of orange is the Nagpur region. We have a lot of machines there now going. The fruits flow very fast in the conveyor belt. We apply machine vision and AI to detect this thing. The A-grade fruits get separated from B and C, and A goes to EU, well, C will come to Tenkasi. But that's how it goes, right? The farmers get a good price in Europe. And Voxel grades is our MRI machines. The first MRI machine designed and made in India that will be coming out. The last company, Gen Robotics, I'm very proud of. They have solved a very important problem of our society, the manual scavenging. They have 200 of those machines based on their exoskeleton kind of technology deployed in cities around India. Most importantly, this company is already profitable. They will do more than 30 crore revenue this year. Gen Robotics is based in Trivandrum. So this is a quick, this is my slide I mentioned about what lies ahead. Basically, the problem of the world is summarized in this one slide. Colossal debt burden and demographic reality in the West, Japan, and China. Birth rates that are super low, population that is shrinking, with debt burdens that have gone up extremely high. That is true in Japan, that's true in Italy, that's true in Greece, and that's true in UK. So many countries around the world now. So this is the reality. Debt burden colliding against demographic reality. And India is in actually a relatively good position on demographics, and our debt levels are actually reasonably manageable. I hope it stays that way. We want to make sure that we don't borrow those ideas of heavy debt from those countries. And this is the Japanese yen's chart I often show. 100 yen, now it's 150 yen. We used to think of 100 yen to a dollar as like a immutable law for 20, 30 years. Now it's 150 yen in the last just 5-6 months. And we are operating in Japan. We have about 120 employees. How do you plan for this? Suddenly you realize our revenue in Japan has now been shrunk by this much percentage now without doing anything wrong. We are selling in yen, and when we are collecting in rupees, it has shrunk. So, and we used to call these hard currencies. And you saw, UK Prime Minister had to resign because of the issues in their currency, all that. So this is why I mentioned uncertain world rules are changing. The Indian rupee has held up remarkably well against the dollar, in fact, it is appreciated against a lot of other currencies. It is appreciated against the yen. It is appreciated against the British pound, appreciated against the euro. We had never seen that before. In 25, 30 years, we had never seen these things. We are seeing that. So, which means something is changing in the world, and we have to be aware. And this was my most important one, because this is one thing I worry about. Diesel and gas I mentioned. Diesel for tractors, harvesters, transport, all that, and gas. So, and this is something that I keep talking about, because food security. I'm humble enough to admit, we can all live without SaaS, without even our smartphones, all that. But food, that we cannot live without, right? So all these issues, we won't be immune. So we have to go through these issues. I don't think there are any easy solutions around. which requires decision makers, policy makers, businesses, citizens, all of us to think about it. And we have to accept some harsh ground realities in this. I think that's where we're heading, and I want us always to keep these things in mind. And I do, and part of my rural push, all of that is also these. In fact, I have encouraged all our employees to get into farming as much as possible. Go back to your hometowns, buy some land, farm, because food security is paramount. We have to grow more food because there is food shortages around the world. And I'm an optimist. I am an optimist. See, you wouldn't be investing in 5G and MRI machines and all of that without being optimistic. We are spending a lot of money investing in all this. But we have to be realistic. We cannot be foolish optimists. So that's, and so these are the summary of our thing: a strong culture, a sense of purpose, investment in long-term R&D, humility to learn lessons taught by reality. I always keep my ear to the ground. Whatever reality is teaching us, that's a lesson. And this, when this whole thing we go through, there's a promise I make. We want to offer you a strong shelter during storm, be a beacon of stability in our industry. That is our hope. And this is something that I always, this is a point of business advice to customers. Most people, this is what sinks business, because your inputs get costlier, your output, you cannot raise the price. And you want to evaluate your business on this thing. Do I have costly inputs and do I have a commodity output? And this came from one of our farmers. They actually, literally, this message came from a farmer in my village. He said, when I go to the shop to buy anything, they name the price, seed, fertilizer, whatever. When I go to sell my vegetable or whatever, they name the price. Both sides, I take the price. I don't determine the price. The price is given by somebody else. You go sell a goat, they name the price. You go sell vegetables, they name the price. So he said, I'm caught between these two ends. My inputs are costlier, my output, I don't determine the price. This is a trap that too many companies fall into. And during inflationary time, it's very hard. And we must at least plan on inflation, because energy prices are a crucial variable in inflation. Energy goes into everything, and energy prices cannot, I do not have a confidence to say they'll remain low or even affordable. So this is how our own focus is provide quality output from affordable inputs. At the farm level, we have substituted. For example, we don't use chemical fertilizer. We are going to more organic. For example, we are mixing cow dung with ash from burning the rice husk. Power plants burn rice husk. We buy the ash, we mix it with cow dung, that is our fertilizer. So quality output from affordable inputs. All of these we have to think through in our business. Look at your inputs, see where you can substitute with affordable inputs and how we can raise the value of the output. So that's my last slide. Thank you. I've taken too much time. Thank you very much. Namaskar. Thank you for coming.
Sridhar, we can now take questions. The gentleman over here will get your mic, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Anil Garg from Apna Infotech. I must admit, we are new to Zoho world. So thank you, Sridhar, for sharing your philosophy and the value which company hold.
Thank you.
It's really admirable. So I have a question. So few days back, one of my partner was interested, for some work in Zoho, but at the same time, he was not sure about Zoho, So the question here is, what is the key differentiator, we can bring on the table when we are talking about any global product? Just for an example.
How would you convince them to adopt Zoho?
Yes.
Yeah. We never do a very hard sell. What we would invite them to do is try one of the products, identify just one pain point, use one of the products. It could be something humble, your digital signature, your expense management, or your project management, your invoicing. We actually have we've freed up our Zoho invoicing. Just invoice using Zoho. Like that, you start with one and build trust, build credibility. That's how I will say. Don't try to sell everything. Give them one thing.
Sure. So I have one specific question. Like, for example, in Zoho CRM, there are other products in the market. Okay, they are also well established.
Yes.
So how I would say, push or maybe sell Zoho CRM to my customer?
Give a demonstration. That's what I'll say. Put together a prototype, demonstrate what you can do. Depending on the size of the company, you also look at begin. A begin is something that's for smaller businesses that might be actually very easy to use also.
Okay.
For larger customers, Zoho CRM Plus.
Thank you, Sridhar.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions? Yes.
வணக்கம் என் பேர் வெங்கட் சுப்ரமணியன் நானும் சென்னையிலேருந்து தான் வரேன் I also studied in IIT Kharagpur. I went to US like in Tambram. Then I saw you after Y2K and after 9/11. I wanted to come back to India. I already knew about your work, your philosophy. I came back. 12 years ago, I started a company called eFarm. It's very interesting to see that you are talking agriculture. And inspired by you, I started a startup. Everything was there. But the one mistake I made was I went for venture capital funding, seed funding. It drained me out. 90% of my time went for funding. It collapsed. Last 10 years, I've tried working for other startups, social startups, and I'm starting another venture now. I did work for some company. I quit last week. Interestingly, Zoholics I saw. I wanted to see you and hear about your philosophy. I'm very much inspired. I would like you to be my mentor.
Please send an email and I'll try to do it. Given my time commitment, I don't know how many companies I can do, but I'll try.
Thank you so much.
I send an email and I'll.
I also
Thank
bought
you.
a Veshti. I want to be next Sridhar Vembu.
Okay, thank you.
Lovely. Thank you. We have one more here. Who is there? Who is going next? Please go ahead, sir. Yes.
Yeah, good morning. And I want to say something now to this crowd. You know, I started my Zoho journey on February 2020. And I'm a non-techie guy. And I implemented the Zoho One completely off my own. And my venture is partsbaba.com. And so after building up 5-6 sites, you know, I actually set up the site on the Zoho. Now we got 21,000 users in just 1 year. And we got like almost 5,500 B2B customers.
Very good.
Zoho customers. That's it, like, you know, I want to really thank you for that actually.
Thank you. Thank you.
And one thing I want to ask you, do you invest out of Zoho?
Do you invest?
Out of Zoho?
Yeah, we have made some investments, but we are not really we are not, these are technologies I look for, and then there are some specific technologies that come up, we invest, but we saw only about 6 or 7 companies so far, but you can see.
Okay, so Parts Baba has an opportunity. We can, Parts Baba, we want to offer, like, you know, if you can just look into my project.
I'll connect you with the team, but I'm personally not involved in these.
Thank you.
All of these are selected by my brother, by the way.
Got it.
All of those companies, my brother was involved. I'll connect you with them.
Do connect me with you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you. We have time for just 2 more questions.
Yeah.
Go ahead, sir.
Sridhar, my name is Rajul Jain. Academically, I am a chartered accountant, company secretary, but turned as a Supreme Court advocate, practicing into the financial domains. So recently, my company with the name of LitGrow, so we have been onboarded as your Zoho finance partner. So specifically, during your presentation, you have mentioned about that you will be providing some template for the rural implementation so that we can fetch some talent from the rural areas.
Yes.
So last night only I have watched you first time ever on the YouTube wearing lungi and all that. So because most of the times I belong from the Vaishnav sect of Vrindavan. So I used to wear a tilak and dhoti kurta. So actually it's a combination of a modern and a spirituality. So that's why. So we were in fact of this concept to fetch the rural talent. We have one problem statement. We are in the Vrindavan, we are running an NGO with the name of VISL, Vrindavan Institute of Sustainable Living. So we have the people, those who are the IITians, chartered accountant, company secretaries, but they are now attracted towards the spirituality and living the life of celibacy. But problem statement is that they want to earn some money. So from Delhi, we are headquartered in Delhi, we are giving them some work. And I thought of this idea that that these guys could be the best people if we train them on these ideas. So
Yes.
in VISL, we have our own small piece of land in Vrindavan. We have at present total 6 people there. Among them, 2 are the IITians, 3 are the chartered accountants, 1 is the MBA finance. So this kind of combination we have. So I want to learn more upon this idea. And on my quest to explore the Zoho, when I went on the Google and I searched that Zoho is running the Google Zoho schools, then I found that you people are taking the people from the very young age, actually, approx from their 12th standard. So now I am 33 and a half. I see myself nowhere in the space because, and secondly, I'm a CA. I do not understand the tech geeks. Whenever speaking with me, people makes me fool in my own company. So how to bridge this gap? So when you speak about the low code, no code, so it should be equally comfortable for the lawyers, for the CAs. So this is like
2 questions, yeah. The first one, we are going to offer, we're getting a group of trainers who can do this on a larger scale, train on this technology, particularly rural youth. We are conducting incubation centers now in several rural areas right now with promising results. We are identifying good talent to get into these. So this is something that we'll be happy to share and we'll happy to send to other parts of India to train people on this. Because yeah, absolutely, you should employ rural youth to do, for example, your analyzing your briefs, all of that work that can be done. On the second one, the low code, no code platform, we are making it easier. In fact, in Bangalore, there's a lady, Deepa Govind, who comes there. She is what she calls herself a homepreneur. For 10 years, she has built a business from home while raising children, all of that, on the Zoho Creator platform. And she taught it herself, she learned the tool herself. But it's something that we are creating training videos and all of that so that it can be trained. But you have to put in some effort. Go on a weekend to YouTube, watch videos, play with the tool. It's all free, available online, you can try it. And if there's any help needed, maybe you send an email, maybe you can arrange a kind of a webinar or something for it. So we conduct these webinars also.
Thank you, Sridhar.
Thank you.
Thank you. We are easily
Do we have time or we have to-
30 minutes. Yeah, we are overshooting by 30 minutes, but I promised to 2 more gentlemen, so let's go ahead with that. Yeah.
Vanakkam, Sridhar. Welcome to Delhi. Welcome all. I'm from Power Grid Corporation, a Maharatna company of Government of India under Ministry of Power. Actually, during pandemic, we are a large company spread out across India. Actually, we are doing global operations also. Actually, we are searching for a video solution, audio video solution, and a unified communication solutions, which we can connect all our employees across India during pandemic. Actually, so at that time, a lot of products are already available in market, but we want to keep our data inside India only. We want to not take it out actually. So after long try, we purchased this Zoho Click. We named it as a Varta actually. Varta for Power Grid. Domain, we created domain, and we are still using that one, Varta. We have purchased for 3 years, but we purchased through GEM portal. Through open tender. Can you imagine how much pain it is actually? He's my colleague Abhinay Agarwal. He only worked on it. Tendering process is a very tough tendering process. Reverse auction also happened actually. From your team, I think Raghu and Manimaran and Pradeep, they helped.
Any of them here?
Raghu is there, I think so.
Okay. Yeah.
Raghu is there. Raghu helped a lot. You talked about that video conferencing. Na?
Yes.
We are already using that actually.
Yes.
Our CMD is talks open house. We used to call town hall.
Okay.
We connect all the employees, but still some glitches are there actually.
Yes.
These people has to sit with us.
We are working on it. We are improving it. Every week it's improving now.
As a government product, we are using one more product, Manage Engine, we are using it.
Yeah, okay.
We are controlling all the 6,000 computers across. One more thing, you are using our network for connecting Bombay and Delhi data center actually.
Bombay and Chennai?
You are using power.
Oh, interesting.
You are using our network for
the dark fiber.
connectivity. Dark fiber, you are using our network.
I see. I didn't know that.
And my request is, you're doing very good thing actually, but you should enter into government sector actually.
Okay.
Lot of government sector, because
But you know, sir, it's very difficult.
very difficult. No doubt. No doubt. But your people could do it actually. Your people could do it.
Even at our size, we dread to enter because, it's extremely difficult. And I also tell you, I hear horror stories, particularly at state governments level, where you support, you implement everything, you may have outstanding pending, 6 months, 1 year, they won't pay up.
But you can concentrate on PSUs actually.
Yeah.
PSUs are doing very well.
We'll do, yeah.
You come to our
We're actually winning some PSUs
Can you
now.
imagine, we have made the payment within the schedule actually.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, thank
We have
you.
made the
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Just one more question here, one last and
you.
final question. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We definitely plan to enter the government sector more, but yes, it is tough. Yeah.
Thank you. Sridhar, this is Manjeet here. I'm the CEO of Paramount Group. It was such a pleasure to meet you just before, your speech. My question is, when you started, at that time, Salesforce.com was already there, fully established.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was there in your mind? What kind of differentiation you could have brought to the world? I'd love to know that, what was there which you wanted to bring? What was the kind of pain point for them? I would love to know that, please.
Actually, at that time, we were customers of Salesforce too. We initially, and I looked at the product, I looked at the price, I said we can actually do better than this on both dimensions. Better product, lower prices. That's what I thought as an engineer. And it was validated. We could build the product and then we could price it lower and we could support the customer better. A lot of our growth has come from CRM, actually. Our first big growth in Zoho came from CRM. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thank you so much, Sridhar. Thank you.
Thank you again.